Suso, tira Alessio, Suso, tira, perché non tiriamo? Ma perché non tiriamo? Gol! Alessio Romagnoli, gol!
Yeah.
Alessio Romagnoli!
Oh shit, where's Zoom? There it is. Are we recording? Yeah. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher. You can find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Torgrud.
What's up, guys? Glad to be here. Anthony Torgrud rocking some Chalanoglu today. We got a dub, so follow me on Twitter, Torgrud45. Maddie.
Yeah, I guess go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Madison_DT.
Yeah, you like you're in different surroundings, Maddie, to be fair.
Yeah, I moved my office downstairs.
Oh, shoot. I just realized that, yeah.
Yeah, nice. That was good. Yeah, and then AJ, you've got the last couple of minutes of the Torino game on the background.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I could
Hoping
actually show that on YouTube. Might be
Bit rude.
copyright material, so hide
Yeah,
that.
hoping that Torino can find a late equaliser against Roma, which keeps the fight for fifth alive. But as it stands, and let's assume that it keeps going the same way, we've secured sixth. Because of the Napoli result, means we can't finish any lower, and if Roma win this, then it means we can't finish any higher. So sixth place it is this season, which I suppose after a very, very disappointing start, and then a very topsy-turvy middle period, and an absolute explosion where we've seemingly ripped away from all the competition, and kind of wishing there were another 10 games and we might even be able to have a pop at catching fourth or whatever, but is what it is after a season like this. So we've got a couple of games to recap, and we start with one which they're both quite fun in their own ways. We'll start with Friday's game, obviously, though. Friday Night Lights at San Siro against Atalanta. We previewed this game and we all unanimously agreed basically that we were fearing the worst because we had 5 key players out of the starting lineup. Teo Hernandez and Benacer were suspended. Romagnoli was injured. And then there was Conti, who was out as well, which meant we basically had to field a makeshift back line, which included Diego Laxalt, Matteo Gabbia, Simon Kier, and Davide Calabria. And then we had to have Biglia in midfield as a result. Against the best attack in the league, against a team that scored over 100 goals this season, we all predicted that we'd concede many goals and probably lose the game and that the unbeaten run would end. But do you know what? It wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
It wasn't that bad. And in fact, I think if we had our full starting 11, I think we could have won that game.
Yeah, they really didn't look that strong against us, to be
No.
honest. And it's looked kind of like they're slowing down. They're getting a little tired. Maybe those injections are wearing off, if any. But yeah, I mean, we didn't look that great, but like you said, we were missing 5 very important players. 4. I don't count Conti as
4, yeah.
But some important players were out, and it was a tough draw, but ultimately we came away with the point, and that's honestly the better than what we all expected. So I'm thrilled with it. It wasn't the most exciting game to watch quality-wise, but a point's a point. I'll take it.
Yeah, I think going into it was a case of they're going to score at least 2 goals, or that's what I thought. And then it was a case of could our attack carry us through it as they had done in previous weeks. What I was worried about is that we'd approach the game and think attack's the best form of defence. The more that we pin them back, the less that they can hurt us. I think if we'd have done that, it'd have inadvertently opened the game up, and that's where we'd have been spanked. They would have hit us very, very hard on the break, as they do. And it could have been an ugly night, but we didn't do that. The back 4 that was a bit of a patchwork back 4 actually managed to hold together pretty well. He's not got many plaudits for the performance that I've seen anyway, but Laxalt actually put in a solid shift at both ends. He wasn't great with his end product, but that's what you probably expect from someone who hasn't played consistently for coming up to 12 months now, because he didn't get many games at Torino either. And then Calabria had a good game on the right side. Particularly impressed with the centre back pairing and youngster Matteo Gabbia. Going up against a very prolific attack against 3 players that Ilicic didn't play, did he? But players that scored over 40 goals combined this season managed to just about keep them quiet. They threw things at us. They brought Muriel on to try and unlock the game, and it didn't work. You know, we went 1-0 up with, I mean, we might as well talk about that free kick. Cross or shot?
My commentators were saying he was lining up for a shot, and they said he used to score these all the time. He might get it in, and I was like, he's not going for that. But then he did. So I don't know, because it did look like a cross. It just kind of curled in a little early that went into net.
Yeah. I think it's one of them where, and players do this, good free kick takers that get their foot through the ball and know that they can get curl on a ball will probably just aim for the top corner. And if you hit the postage stamp, then it's a good ball that's gone in anyway. And if it gets a header, then it's probably a goal. But then if nobody gets anywhere near it, then it might go in because it might catch the keeper by surprise. And I think that's what happened. You look at Golini, he was backpedaling, and in the end, the ball just sort of managed to dip in to the top corner. It was fantastic, like to see it from the angle, because it was on this side where the camera was as well. I was just absolutely stunned to see that one ripple the back of the net. And then you start to think, because we've gone 1-0 up, the way things have been, especially when we've taken leads in games, is this going to be our night again? You know, is this going to be the night where Pioli proves that he's an absolute tactical genius and we should have given him a 20-year contract instead of a 2-year one? I said in the podcast last week, if we managed to get any kind of result against Atalanta with the selection problems that we had, that Pioli's a miracle worker. And, you know, I stand by that. Atalanta looked pretty ordinary in that game, but we need to remember that they were the only team in the entirety of Europe that had as good form as what we did since Serie A resumed.
I think you mentioned that they have the best attack in our league, but I think it's in Europe as well. I don't think anyone scored over 100 this season.
It is
Has
incredible.
Liverpool not gotten that high?
No.
They might have with all comps, but they didn't in the league.
Man City are the highest scoring team in the Premier League.
How much do they have right now?
In 98, I want to say. And obviously that's now over. But Atalanta are ridiculous. They play fantastic football. They do concede goals, it must be said. But at the same time, they're flying, and like they might not finish second. Obviously, Inter, if they win out, have got that. But Inter actually have Atalanta in the last game of the season, which is going to be very interesting. To see how those two stack up against each other. But Atalanta, of course, I'll have an eye on that Champions League as well, because they've got PSG, and they might actually fancy that. Probably not, because their style of play says if you're going to put a front three up against a front three, then they might come off second bench against Neymar and Mbappe.
Well, Mbappe's out.
Oh, he is, isn't he? Oh, it might be their time to do it.
I think they can, man. I think PSG's a little soft right now. They haven't been playing. Their league stopped. You know, they didn't have a restart. So obviously they had the Coupe de France or their equivalent of the Super Cup. I don't know what they call it. And they won that 1-0 recently, but it wasn't the best performance. So
I saw they played Celtic in a preseason friendly. Is that great preparation? You know,
probably not for a team like that going up against a team like this. You know,
it is kind of weird that Champions League is so late in the summer. I mean, because of everything that happened, it makes sense. But this is almost like preseason. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a preseason that actually matters.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be strange.
Yeah. I mean, Pioli said in his post-match conference tonight, said he was basically asked, if, let's say Roma win, how do you view the preparation for next season? And he said, well, competitive games to qualify for the Europa League is better than just having meaningless preseason games from teams in the local area. So that's maybe one thing. I get the travel and I get the recovery times and all that kind of stuff, but who knows? It might be a blessing in disguise to get into actual match rhythm before other teams. But we'll see, because with all the European leagues being out of line, it's going to be quite interesting. Because the Scottish season, for example, starts on Saturday. And it's like ours doesn't start again for another, how many weeks is it? Like 7 weeks?
Yeah, well, we
have
3 or 4. Our season ends August 2nd, and then we do qualifiers in September.
Yeah.
We qualified? I thought we qualified in August.
No, because we're going into the second round of qualifiers. So it's September 17th. So I don't know if Serie A starts before that or after that. I can't remember, but
I think Serie A started the first couple weeks of September.
So it's the middle weekend of September.
That's when
I
we
mean,
start qualifiers.
yeah.
So that's when the league starts as well.
Yeah. So it's going to be a compact schedule to start, assuming that we do have these qualifiers, but it is what it is.
I'll let you know in
Hopefully
20 seconds if we got it or
Yeah,
not.
it looks like.
Yeah.
Well, there was a big, like a 3-minute pause for VAR stuff.
Yeah, I was looking at that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, if we have to do it, then the hope is that we get some absolute nobody teams and we're able to kill the game off within like 30 minutes and then rest players. But
We're going to get Spurs is what's going to happen.
Yeah. That would be just our luck. So yeah, Atalanta game was good. I mean, the equaliser, I was worried about the time of it because it came, not that long before half time. And I was worried that goal would give them the wind in their sails to come out and batter us in the second half.
Which about that goal, I know you praised Gabia, and I agree. I think he's been better than anticipated. But that goal was a combination of him and whichever fullback he was near. I can't remember if it was Laxalt or Calabria, but
I think it was Calabria. Yeah,
they combined for a big old goof that led to that goal.
It was Calabria because what happened was the shot from the edge of the box deflected through in a freakish kind of way through to Zapata, who basically just strong-armed Calabria out of the way. I know fullbacks are meant to be stocky and strong, but it's Duvan Zapata. The guy's a unit, and he's a predator. He's a goal scorer. I'm not going to beef at Calabria for being beaten to a ball that he shouldn't have won anyway. And then obviously Zapata finished, but that came after the penalty save from Donnarumma as well. I think if that had gone in, it might have completely changed the game at the wrong time for us. But what I was really, really happy with is that, again, I've seen people criticised for this, but we didn't get carried away in the second half when we realised that Atalanta were having an off day and perhaps their passes weren't as crisp and their finishing wasn't as good as it normally is. We could have got carried away and thrown players on and gone for the win full time. Qualifiers it is, boys. We're going to Lithuania or something like that. We didn't get carried away. We didn't throw attacking players upfield that could have jeopardised what was a very important point to carry on the unbeaten run, and to do so in the circumstances that we did with our worst possible defence, arguably, against the best possible attack. Point gained, I think. Chalk that one on and move on. So a final away game of the season has just happened. Obviously, we record on Wednesday nights. We've stuffed Sampdoria 4-1.
Crushed them.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be that easy because I was looking through the stats, and I know that post-lockdown stats have kind of gone out the window, especially for games against teams that we've played a lot of in Serie A. But I was looking through the stats. Sampdoria v Milan at the Marassi at their ground is a game that very rarely produces many goals. We've been beaten 1-0 a couple of times. We've won 1-0 a couple of times. But it's just not a big goal-scoring fixture. And I thought that with us probably getting tired, them having already achieved survival fairly comfortably after a decent run post-lockdown, I thought it might be a bit of a plucky game and that we might get a first-half goal and sort of end up clinging on to that. What I'm liking is that we seem to be scoring, and just in the second half, if we still have the lead, we're just completely opening up.
We keep going. That's something we haven't done in years. It's always been if we score, we set back. And like you said, now we're going for it. This is 19 straight league games with a goal, and I think Atalanta stopped the streak, but we did like 8 straight with 2 or more or something like that. So,
which hadn't been done in a long time.
Yeah, we're in fantastic form right now, especially as far as goal scoring goes. Before the restart, we had a negative goal difference, and I think now we're at like plus 15, plus 16, something like that. So
yeah, we're looking pretty good.
It's huge. We're a fun team to watch, and so after our game, I started watching that one, and I'm watching Torino Roma, and I'm thinking these teams are not nearly as fun to watch as Milan. And it's been a while since I thought any team was not as fun to watch as Milan because we've been so bad.
I would say we've been looking like we've been having fun out there, and it's a lot of fun to watch because the team is actually creating stuff. It's not just like, oh, the ball's in front of the net, let's shoot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We've developed this kind of clinicism, I think that's a word, whatever, clinicalness, whatever it might be, that was completely missing before, where we were creating chances, Well, we started the season where we were barely creating any chances and we weren't scoring them. And then we were creating chances but not scoring them. And, our record with Ibrahimovic, quite frankly, speaks for itself. You know, when he first came, there were a couple of very frustrating games to start with. We had the Sassuolo game, which was the 120th anniversary celebration that we drew 0-0. And we had Sampdoria at home in Ibrahimovic's big homecoming debut game, and we drew 0-0. There's been games where we've really struggled to cut teams open and to create chances. I really, really like the way that we're playing at the moment. If you look at the best sides in Europe, this is a generalisation, obviously, and I'm not saying that we're up there. If you look at the best sides in Europe at the moment, your Liverpools, your Bayern Munichs, they play a similar way in that they sit there, they're structured, they press with the forwards and the midfield, and then when they win the ball back, it's fucking scary to watch, like hounding players forward. You look up from Milan's counter, for example, for the third goal, you see Salamakers darting off to the right. You see Ibrahimovic darting to the left. The defence opens up so Çalhanoğlu could shoot. He could drop the ball back. You know, there were so many options, and you think it must be so annoying if, as a team, you're trying to break us down, and you know that if you make one mistake, you make one bad pass, and it gets pounced upon, you've got to run back quick. Like, otherwise, that's it. You know, you're in serious trouble. Mm-hmm. We're scoring good goals on the counter-attack as well. The first goal tonight, first goal in the win over Sampdoria was just something very similar to what we've been doing to try and get the first goal in a lot of games since Ibrahimovic came, getting balls out wide, crossing them in and letting him do his thing with his expert centre-forward play that he has at the age of 38, where he just knows where to be in the right position at the right time. Great header, great goal. And then obviously the second goal was all Ibrahimovic again. For him to like crane his neck back like that, I mean, it's easy for me because I've got a massive neck, but for him to crane his neck back like that and head it back across goal with such power, just enough to get it over the defender. I can't remember who it was. And then for Çalhanoğlu to scissor kick it in, that was a good way for him to continue his form. And I will actually pull up a stat here at this point. So Hakan Çalhanoğlu has amassed a goal or an assist in 5 straight Serie A games. The last player to do that was Kaká back in 2008.
Wow.
So there you go.
Actually, is that just with Milan, or is that in the league? Okay.
No, with Milan. So that's consistent.
That's amazing.
Him. Yeah, I mean, no one's comparing the two. Don't get me wrong, but it's just, and finally, if perhaps the criticism before was that he'd pop up with 2 assists in one game and go missing then for another 5, and then he'd pop up again with a goal, is that he's just always there at the moment. You know, he's always creating, and it's fantastic to see. I mean, I put a tweet out after the game saying, it feels like if Milan start with Çalhanoğlu, Rebic and Ibrahimovic, we're scoring goals in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it just shows that when you have more than one threat, it opens up the defense. And now all of our players are having equal chances, because the past 7 years we've had one threat.
Right.
So when you shut down one threat,
there's 0.
1 goal. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's basic common sense tactics, yet we haven't been able to do it for so long. And it seems that all it took was a big guy like Zlatan coming in and saying, hey, give me the ball and I will shoot this thing. And then they're just open, you know?
Not even that. Just give me the ball and I'll make something happen. You know, I'll find
every game he's done.
Or just have me on the field and space will open up.
Yeah, and it does.
You're not going to leave Zlatan unmarked.
Right. We saw it today. He was single marked, and he scored a goal in 3 minutes.
And teams tried to cope with him, and yet he still found a way to be unmarked for that header for the first goal. He still found a way to get himself through on goal for the third one. He found a way to be unmarked at the far post to head back across to Çalhanoğlu for the second goal. He's just very, very good at what he does. I'm worried about us becoming too over-reliant on him, but of course he had those few games out, and Rebic showed that he can give us something a little bit different. It seems the plan, based on various media reports, is that this summer we'll probably bring in a young striker who will be a deputy to Ibrahimovic, because it now seems like Zlatan's going to stay and sign a new 1-year deal. Now, I'll throw this out there
I
now.
thought he had an option on his contract, or did he just have a 1-year contract?
The option was something to do with if we magically got into Champions League.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
What if we're going for a deputy to Ibrahimovic? First of all, it's obvious now that Pioli sees Leao out wide. He played there again tonight. I think he'll start there in place of Rebic because Rebic is now suspended for the game against Cagliari on Saturday night. So I think Leao will start out wide, and we'll see what he's like as an out-and-out left-sided player. We're going for a deputy then for Ibrahimovic. Do we go for another target man, or do we go for something a bit different?
I think if we want someone to follow in Ibro's footsteps, we need a target man.
The problem is there's really not that many that could replicate him with his height, his physical prowess, his strength. I mean, he's a very unique, one-of-a-kind guy. That's why in the 39 years of his life, no one has replaced him. No one's been dubbed the new Zlatan, you know? It's not something that's going to happen. It
there
might.
Are options that could, but you're looking at players that fit a physical mould rather than, I'd say half of Zlatan's impact has been his quality on the field, but the other half has probably been his leadership and his mentality alone. And you want to tell me that we're going to sign Gianluca Scamacca and he's going to come in and be able to replicate what we've got going on at the moment. I'm sorry, but it's not going to happen.
Not a chance.
That's why I'm so desperate for us to sign someone who's almost ready-made for next season, and pitch it as you're going to work with Zlatan. He's going to give you that boost and then you take the baton from him in a year's time. Vlahovic from Fiorentina is, for me, the one that stands out. He's a target man, but he's very, very good with the ball at his feet. He's had an up and down season, but I think it's because he hasn't really wanted to be there since January. Big, strong Serbia international. He strikes me as a guy who potentially could come in and fill a kind of mould like that. There's also that guy who we've been linked with a few times who is at, I want to say he's at Sociedad. He's actually Swedish as well, called Alexander Isaac.
Yeah.
And he has been called the next Zlatan because
as soon as you said that, I was like, oh crap, yep.
Yeah, but he's not as strong, and there's much more pace to his game and trickery and stuff like that. But who knows, if we're looking for a guy who is a target man who can be moulded into a counter-attack man too, he might be the guy. But there's not as many options as, you run down the list of going in a different direction with a mobile centre-forward like a Jovic, Myron Boadu, Daniel Marlin. All these players, Arik Milik, even though I don't really like him.
Wait, are we linked with Daniel Marlin?
Yeah, we have been a few times.
Really?
I like him. Yeah, I think he's quality, but he tore his ACL, didn't he?
Oh, I have no idea. I just discovered this guy on like Saturday. I started a Benfica career mode for FIFA, and I just picked him up, and he's been a beast. I didn't know that.
He's got a lot of goals for PSV this season. There were talks during January that Raiola was going to bring him to us if we couldn't get Zlatan. Obviously, we got him. He's not really a tight man, don't get me wrong. He's more of a poacher finisher, run between the centre-backs kind of guy, but could also work. I'm not saying that Ibrahimovic and his style of play is the be-all and the end-all.
It's just what we have now that's working, so it doesn't make sense to break a fixed system, Don't break what's not broken. That's what I tried to say. Don't fix what's not broken. Jeez,
don't fix what's not broken. There we go, mate. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah. What I do like about the three players who play in behind Ibra at the moment is that they seem to be very flexible. They all move about. You'll look up and Çalhanoğlu's on the right.
I've noticed everyone's been switching. Even Benison and Kessié, almost the entire game, were on the opposite end of where they lined up.
Yeah, I like the fluidity that our system brings. And, we'll come on to transfers in a little bit, but just on the centre-forward thing, that may also be important, to have someone who is equally as mobile and can drop in and can contribute, because Ibra plays holding midfield sometimes. It's actually quite scary to watch. He drops to the halfway line, and I'm like, oh, he's playing as a regista here. This is kind of scary. He can do anything. But yeah, another year of Ibra, and I guess we let the management figure out what to do from there, really. It's their decision. And Pioli as well. He will have a big say in that. He might well say, Ibra was the band-aid of not being able to score goals, but this is the way that I see us playing moving forward. But yeah, who have we just beaten? Sampdoria. Sampdoria win, good overall. Buzzing for Rafael Leao. Now, we'll talk about it quickly because I don't want to spend too much time on it because it'll be giving it too much, bad press and we're too negative and stuff like that. But he got caught. Now, this wasn't us. So we put a tweet out about it and it caused a bit of a stir. People said that as a brand, we were trying to create a negative atmosphere and things like that. What it was that somebody on Reddit had highlighted the fact that that Rafael Leao would like to tweet in which they were criticising the way that Pioli has handled him. He didn't do it once. He liked 2 tweets that were criticising the way that Pioli has managed him and his comments about him in the media, about him being better in training than in games and stuff like that. We put that out there and put up, looks like Rafa, in a kind of jovial way, in my opinion, looks like Rafa's not really happy with Stefano Pioli. And some people were like, this isn't the time, you're trying to create negativity, you're trying to ruin the good vibes, blah, blah, blah. Not the case at all. We're not linked to the club. We're not only going to post good news, we're going to post news that gets people talking, and we're going to post things that generate discussion, and, not all newsworthy things are good things either. That is something that we had to bring to people's attention, in my opinion, but rant over on that. You can have your own opinion on it. But that aside, absolutely buzzing for him to get a goal tonight, and what a goal it was. He's now on, I want to say that's his 4th since lockdown, I think it is.
Yeah, because I think it's his 6th overall.
Third, yeah, he scored against Spal, Juve, and tonight.
Lecce, he scored at Lecce as well to make it 4-1 there.
Oh, I need to click show more results.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, so buzzing for him to get another goal. And like I say, hopefully he gets a start in that last game of the season against Cagliari. We did get a question from Gianna Ventura, who most people don't know this, but he actually was one of the co-founders of the site. So it was good to get a question from him. He says, what does the future hold basically for Rafael Leao? It's an interesting one because we've just talked about a backup centre forward. It doesn't seem like it's going to be Rafael Leao. Do you think that he gets another season of just being a bit part player and getting minutes off the bench? Do you think he's going to be happy with that?
I think he should be. In the last...
Yeah, he'll get over it.
Yeah, in the last 3-4 games when he's come off the bench, he's looked great. He's been competing to get the ball. He, earlier on in the season, he would come off the bench and just stand around. So clearly Ibra has had an effect on him, and maybe just the change in the entire team as a whole and the morale. He looks a lot more competitive. So I think that, as a professional athlete, you're not happy sitting on the bench, but I think that at his age, he's still developing. So I think in like 2 or 3 seasons, if he's still riding the bench, he'll force a move out if we have not sold him already.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any issue. I think we all saw his reaction when Zlatan came into the club. He said it was his idol growing up, and now he gets to play with him and learn from him. If you say, listen, we have high hopes for you. We see what you can do in training. We know you're going to be great. You need a bit more time, and you're going to play second fiddle to Zlatan Ibrahimovic. No young striker on earth is saying no to that. They're all going to be overjoyed. That is a young child striker's dream. He's thrilled to be on the bench behind this team. Now that he's playing out left, I could see him saying, I want to start over Rebic, but you have to earn that spot because Rebic was our savior for a while when Zlatan was out, and Leao's stepped up every game. He's done exactly what Rebic did. When Rebic had a bad game, he deleted his Instagram and he focused and he's got good. Now Leao still likes his social media, which is fine. I do too. I post shit every day, but he's been upping his performances. He's been doing filthy things on the ball every day. And now he's got a goal to his name as well, a few of them. So
I think he's upping your performances, AJ?
Yes. Yeah, I have.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, and I think there's a possibility that if he's going to start, it's going to be over Rebic, or who's the other one? Or maybe they find a way to put him over Salamakers instead, or swap Rebic and Leao, and that's where he's going to start. He's not going to start over Zlatan, but he could potentially grow over Rebic, I think. Plus, we also don't know what Rebic's situation is. It's a loan deal, but what if we don't come to an agreement?
Well, yeah, there is also that possibility. I think we need to. Don't get me wrong, there are players that can play as wingers and strikers, but we kind of need to pick a position for Leao and stick with it. For a while when we were playing 4-4-2, we put him up front with Ibrahimovic, and that seemed to bring the best out of him. But now we switched to a one-striker formation. It once again looks like there isn't a spot for him anytime soon in the starting 11. The most obvious thing for me is, like you said, if we can find a way to shift it so we get Rebic on the right and Leao on the left, then that would be perfect. But then also, Rebic has been so good since the turn of the year that, back to the old thing, if you don't fix what isn't broken. Mm-hmm. So I think Leao cost a lot as an investment. It's 28 million euros, something like that. So we're not going to give up on him. We're certainly not going to sell him unless I would say a gargantuan offer comes in. But he's one of those players that you want.
Club, it's fantastic having someone like him to come on from the bench. Exactly. Look at all the elite clubs. Dybala rides the bench all the time, and he's the best player at Juve. Continue. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And Inter kind of had a similar thing with, well, it's not similar, but, Alexis Sanchez went there on big, big wages, and he couldn't get a game, couldn't get a start. And now he's starting because, he's looked better than Lautaro Martinez in recent weeks. It happens. Footballers go through good and bad patches. And Rafael Leao at 21 has got a lot of good patches to come. That's one thing. We need to be patient with him and not to put too much pressure on him. But to have a player like that to turn to on the bench, if we need a moment of brilliance to break down a team like Spal, who are playing a low block that we can't get past, or we're 2-0 up in a game and we need someone who's deadly on the counter and has quick feet and all that kind of stuff, Leao's the guy, If he starts scoring goals consistently, having come on as a sub, then you may be looking to rotating who starts on the wing, or you look at starting him full stop. But let's not rush the process. I think we've seen plenty of good things, and there's a lot of good things still to come as well. But I just hope he's happy. Basically, I think that's important as well. As long as he's enjoying his football and he's happy with his teammates and stuff like that, he knows he's getting games next season. We're going to be in another competition, hopefully with the Europa League, presuming we don't get dumped out by Spurs. And there'll be game time for everybody. There's a lot of areas that need depth, and it is nice to have him. So it was a very well-rounded performance, I'd say, against Sampdoria. Again, showing clinical finishing and all that, being fun to watch, keeping up the reputation that we have for scoring chunks of goals. Not just the odd one here and there. And there was also a couple of good things at the other end. Donnarumma made a couple of fantastic saves and another penalty save, his second in 2 games. That was great. He couldn't do anything about their goal. Another, like the Bologna game, where you just have to sit back and say, okay, fair enough, that's a great shot, top corner, keeper can't touch it. And I thought, again, defensively, the back four, bend, don't break is how it's been over the last couple of games. Samp got in behind to the byline a few times, but we knew they weren't going to do anything with it. They had Qualifiers up front, who's 48, and he can't move the way that he used to do. And Gabbiadini, who's very hit and miss as a player. Defensively, I can't really fault it. I think Gabby has done really well over the last couple of games. I do. And there was a moment in particular that caught my attention when Samp were on a break down their right side, and Teo was running back in pursuit. Gabby actually screamed at Kier to come over and to take his man so he could go out. And it's like at 20 years old, he's barking orders to a 31-year-old who's come in and been a revelation since he joined. That's what you want to see. And physically, I think Gabby has really bulked out, whether it's over the last few months or whatever. But he looks the presence now at the back. Whereas before, if you thought he's going to get bullied against big centre forwards, now you think he might be able to hold his own a little bit. So that was good to see as well. And then Benacer and Kessie are just two, I call them in the tweet thread, hyper-athletic freaks.
Mm-hmm.
And I stand by that. Like, we talk about Atalanta doping. Jesus Christ, those two are covering about 30 kilometres a game between them. It's ridiculous. But it's just amazing to see. So before we go on to the list of questions, speaking of Kessie Benacer, the big rumour that's come out this week is that we're looking for a holding midfielder. There seems to be 3 or 4 names that are doing the rounds, 3 in particular. So we've got Tonali, who we've mentioned plenty of times before. Yeah. Marc Roca, I think it's Roca from Espanyol. And Florentino Luis has come back as a Benfica thing. Now, price tags. Roca's meant to be the cheapest at 15 mil. He's also the oldest. He's 23, and he's been in the team that's just got relegated. Florentino Luis has played the least games. He's 20, and I think he's meant to be around 25, 30 mil, and we could possibly get him on a 2-year loan with option. Tonali, obviously the most expensive, but has experience in Italy, albeit with a team that's going to get relegated very unglamorously. And obviously boyhood Milan fan, that kind of thing. Look at our budget. Let's say it's 100 million. That was the rumoured amount for Ranić. What do you think? Do you try and bring in like Florentino and Roca so we're sorted for the next few years for defensive midfielding? Or do you go quality depth straight away and try and get Tonali here?
I think you get Tonali only because he's been in the league. So he's going to be able to at least acclimate to the team easier. And then Florentino, the kid from
Benfica, yeah,
Portugal, I like him.
Yeah, I like them all as well. I mean, funny that we're talking about him again because, like I said, I started that Benfica FIFA mode, and Florentino's a beast on the game, so he's great there. But like he's got the least amount of real-life games played, and that worries me because a lot of these hyped-up kids that come out of the Portuguese league, they crash or they succeed. There's no in between. And since he hasn't played that many games, right? Exactly. My worry is obligation, and then he's bad, and then we end up having to pay 30 mil and then try and sell him immediately for 10, 15, I feel like that's something we've seen before, even though I don't know if we have. But
this is a new Milan, AJ.
I know.
Get on board.
I'm just nervous with it. I like Roca. I think that makes sense. He's the oldest. He's the cheapest. And he's really freaking good. I think he's one of the best passers in Europe.
I went to
fantastic.
I think I mentioned it on the pod. I went to Barcelona back end of February. I went to watch Espanyol at home against Atletico Madrid. I was looking for Thomas Partey, Saul Niguez, those kind of players. The one that stood out was Roca, without a doubt. Mm-hmm. He was the one who I was like, wow, for a team that are going down, and they went down bottom, they were pretty bad.
Yeah.
He just looked exceptional.
I think he was averaging like 60 completed passes a game. So it was really high number.
He isn't, Tonali seems to have this reputation of being a long ball merchant where he can ping one out to either wing, and he seems to be pretty good at that. I'll give him that. But Roca is like, he will almost drop between the centre-backs to be like a quarterback. He will sit and he will look for those openings. And, if an attacker gets the ball back to goal, can't go anywhere, pass it back to Roca, he'll find the next opening. I like the idea of having somebody like him, and 15 mil is a good deal. The other teams that are supposedly interested in him, or have been over the last few months, are Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. So that should probably tell you something right off the bat. Then Florentino Luis is an interesting one because I think if it's a 2-year loan with option to buy, it's a no-brainer, even if it's set at 40 mil. Because if he comes in and does well for 2 years, 40 mil is going to look like a snip for a player like him. If he comes and does badly, he goes back. He's either got a trajectory that's going to go like that, or it's going to go like that. I don't think there'll be an in-between with him. So the option would protect us there as well. He hasn't played many games, but apparently the reason behind this, there was an interview with Benfica's B team coach that came out on Calcio Mercato earlier this week. It was quite good. The reason that he hasn't been playing as many games is, first of all, Julian Weigl arrived and he was on big wages. Like, they signed him from Dortmund, so they had to play him. And they shifted to playing just one defensive midfielder. So that was him out. But then he played 2 of their last 3 league. No, he started their last 3 league games, did Florentino Luis, and got man of the match in 2 of them. So I think there's a player in there somewhere. His ex-coach or whatever from the B team likened him to N'Golo Kante, but more athletic and more physical. It's bold, and obviously this guy's coached him, so he's going to give him the glowing endorsement and what have you. But exciting, and at that age, he probably isn't going to mind coming in and alternating with Benacer and Kessié, who...
Right, at 19, you could sit on the bench, and you know you're going to sit on the bench, and you're not going to be mad about it.
Mm-hmm. And he seems to be one of these midfielders as well who can drive play forward. You know, he's mobile. If you think about it, like, perhaps if Benacer Kessié we've decided is the pairing that works so perfectly, then you got Kessié, who's an absolute physical unit. He sits back, he's the blocker. Benacer is the you know, the little terrier. He's the one who nips the ball out and he carries the ball forward. Florentino could be that guy, and then you could bring in an absolute tank to put next to him as the backup there, and we're looking pretty good. You know, I think we're looking pretty good, but it is something that does need fixing. And then there's obviously the thing of bringing in a winger. You know, do you think we need a right winger? Some people have asked, do you think we need a right winger? Are Salamanca's and Castillejo good enough to take us into next season?
It depends on... Well, if we could figure out the Leao Rebic situation like we were talking about earlier, then no. But if we don't, then yes, we need someone else because, I don't know. Salmakers he's not bad, but he's limited.
Depth. He's not our starter.
Exactly. He has a ceiling. We know that. And he's already pretty close to it, I think. Same with Castillejo.
Isn't he like really young?
I have no idea, but I just... Salamakers. I just don't
22, I think.
foresee him getting
20.
significantly better. You know, he might. I could be wrong, but
I think we knew what we were getting with him to an extent. We talked about it last week. The balance that he gives us is there to see. Because he covers so much ground, it gives freedom to the other attacking players. Mm-hmm. And he's not terrible on the ball, but he's limited technically compared to other wingers. Now, the problem is people saying, go out there and get Berardi, go out and get Chiesa, go out and get someone who, you know, is a big name and is probably going to be an upgrade in terms of goals and assists. But they don't contribute as much defensively. And we might see ourselves look a lot more exposed. It might work if we go out and we get a very good defensive right back. Like, I can't even name many good defensive right backs, but the ones we've been linked with are Dumfries and Emerson, who are two physical players. You know,
Dumfries is a unit. That is a huge man.
Yeah. If we can shore up that right side, then we might get away with signing a more attack-minded right winger as well. But then, you know, you're opening up a can of worms of, do we need to sign a player in every position to shift the balance of the team again? So, I don't know. I would like to see us sign another right winger, and maybe Salamanca's moving forward could actually be the backup right back. But
I think that's more likely.
Calabria and Conte in the same window. I don't know if that works. I don't know if that happens. But based on the last couple of games, Calabria is better than Conte. I'm sorry, but
I agree. I completely agree with that.
Yeah. Right, a couple of questions then. One from Ahmed at A9M9M. What do you think the cause is for the continuous wins and scoring early in matches, and how can we improve next season?
It comes down to one thing: big dick energy. That's it.
Oh my God!
Can that be the podcast title?
Sure, go for it.
I'm gonna say changing tactics.
I'm gonna say I agree. Yeah, the shifting tactics has been important because Pioli came in and he realised that we had a real problem scoring goals. Yes. So initially he switched to playing two up front. That seemed to fix the goal scoring problem, but all of a sudden we looked a lot shakier at the back. So then we sort of finally managed. We went to a 4-3-2-1, and then we finally migrated to this 4-2-3-1, and we're getting goals from the three players in behind Ibrahimovic. So a more balanced attack is definitely the scoring lots of goals is basically the reason that we're successful. Again, to be totally honest, we're not keeping loads of clean sheets, but we're scoring enough goals to win games against teams that we should win games against. And I think that that's important. How do we improve for next season? Well, We don't. We're going to win the league.
I mean, that would be a huge improvement.
I think improving on our style of play is going to be quite difficult because we shouldn't grumble. We're seeing the best football we've played in years, but definitely the depth to basically have two teams, two starting 11s that are capable of doing the same thing would be great. And perhaps being able to do it over a bigger period of games too. You know, the first 10 minutes we came out like a house on fire against Sampdoria, and then they grew back into the game a little bit. We weren't particularly brilliant up until half time. That could have cost us against a better opponent. And there are games as well where we've just not looked particularly up for it, like the Juve home game, until we conceded, and then that was it. Bang, off we went. So yeah, perhaps just being able to do it over longer spells of games. We'll see. I mean, one thing that does bode well is that they're doing the 5 subs thing again next season. Yeah. So being able to bring options off the bench to keep things fresh is going to help our playing style.
Well, and another thing that's nice is we've seen now that we know our starters can keep this high intensity over a really shortened length season, you know, this 2 games a week. We're not going to do that much next season. Obviously, there's going to be a few with Europa and Cup, but that's not every single week. You know, most of the time, they're going to be able to play at this high intensity, take a week off to get fully recovered, and then do it again. You know,
so who's to say we can't keeping the games so close together is helping us keep that intensity.
Yeah, and that's a very good theory.
I really like the style that we're playing for a number of reasons. One, you know, we're pressing well, don't get me wrong, but we're not pressing as aggressively as we did do. We're happy to almost recharge the batteries when we don't have the ball, but then when we get it, we just fly at them. And that's a pretty sustainable way of winning football matches, you know, because you're not constantly running at 100 miles an hour all of the time. You know, we seem to have cracked this counter-attacking thing now, which is good to see. And then another thing is that you hear so many interviews with ex-professionals who turn around and say that they would happily play 7 games a week as long as they were winning a lot. Because the best energy that you can get is from a happy dressing room, is from winning games, is from scoring goals, is from feeling good about things. You know, if we'd have had a tough run, then we wouldn't be looking forward to games, and the players certainly wouldn't. And, you know, it does bode well that we've been able to put in fairly consistent levels of performances every 3 or 4 days for 6 weeks now, however long it is since the season resumed.
God, has it already been 6 weeks since the season restarted?
Yeah.
Might be more. Might be more. I can't remember, but yeah. So yeah, improvement. Perhaps just doing it over longer periods of games. But I have faith in that. I'm glad we got asked this one. This one comes from Chinaza. It's not like Donald Trump. Why hasn't the coach used Daniel Maldini or any of the Primavera players?
It's been 7.5 weeks since it restarted. The question is, why is he not using Daniel Maldini or the other Primavera players? I have no fucking clue, and it's pissing me off. There's no reason Brescianini shouldn't be starting over, or at least getting game time over Biglia when we were up 4-1. You know, that's silly. But yeah, I don't have an answer for that.
Neither do I. I think it's kind of crazy. Only thing I can think of is trying to secure the Europa League spot. But when we're up 4-0 or 4-1, there's no excuse to why they can't come on.
There's been plenty of opportunities given the way that we've played since lockdown, where games have been killed off, and we should have brought them on, these players, to give them game time.
Well, and we're bringing on players in the same position as the kids who we know are leaving at the end of the season. Their contracts are up and we're not renewing them. Bonaventura, Abilia, there's no reason that...
I think Bonaventura might renew.
He's not renewing. He follows 5 accounts on his Instagram. 4 of them are Adidas and 1 is Atalanta. He's not renewing. There's no way.
I didn't know that, but that's a good one. I've always said I hope he goes back to Atalanta. It'd be a nice homecoming, but maybe we should be looking at that, thinking if they want to sign him, then we'll be keeping him around.
Yeah.
But whatever. Yeah, Colombo, I'm happy. Lorenzo Colombo's getting game time. I wasn't expecting him to start banging him in, you know. But I'm frustrated that, as you say, we've been giving Bonaventura game time over Daniel Maldini, let's say, or Luan Capani, who's apparently going out on loan. We've been giving Biglia game time over Brescianini. That's indefensible, really, in my opinion.
Now, at least with Bonaventura, like he got an assist today. He still contributes to the team. You know, he still has something to add to it. So I get that. But Biglia, no. He's a liability.
He's awful. Like,
Really bad.
Now, it's another Montalivo situation where I don't feel bad for the guy because he's picking up a check of 150 grand a week or whatever it will be. But I feel bad for him in the sense that his Milan career has been decimated by injuries.
Yeah.
He's never had a good rapport with the fans because of that. He's going to go out in a very unceremonious way. And when he comes on the pitch and he gets given an opportunity in his final few games to do something maybe positive and try and go out on a bit of a positive note, he just gets hounded by the fans. And it was just never really gonna happen. But why did Real Betis want him? What have they seen? What?
Speaking of Montalivo, did you see we sent him a custom jersey?
And Nocerino.
Yeah.
Which is really
I don't know
good.
why we sent Montalivo a jersey. Like, fuck that guy.
Some people were saying that he got it printed himself and then just tagged AC Milan and said thanks. So I really like the idea that he did that. But yeah, that was funny. And we sent Kaká one, which was good.
That makes sense. He's important.
Well,
Legend.
did you see he put something like "See you next season," Kaká?
Yeah.
Maybe that's like see you next season, guys.
Unless he means
Not like
the shirt is obviously next season, so
Right.
maybe that's what he's doing. Or either
I think he's just referring to
in general.
next year.
Yeah.
I can't travel. He's stuck in Brazil, isn't he? So he can't travel. Okay.
People from Brazil aren't going anywhere soon, just like us Americans.
And us,
Yeah.
by the sounds of it. That's question I tweeted that.
It's like that was
It genuinely was one that I tweeted. Yeah, so there's a lot here about the midfield situation, which we kind of touched on. Would you bring Pessina back? Did we talk about that last week?
I'm not against it, but I don't think it's necessary. You know?
I like the fact that he's getting starts for Hellas Verona and looking really good and developing as a player. And we know that we've got a 50% resale on him. So at any point when he becomes good enough, we can just yank him for 50% of the price that other clubs could.
Exactly.
I do like that he can play either as a attacking midfielder or as a holding midfielder. That part I do like. He's the kind of guy that if you were playing a 4-2-3-1 and you were 2-1 up in a big game, you'd yank the attacking midfielder and put Pessina on and just stick him box to box. It's ideal. Midfield depth is something we do need. We do need to replace Bonaventura's, Paqueta's, Bilia's, these players that will be.
Paqueta's been horrible, man.
I'm not against. If Torino really want Krunic, sell him, get our money back, flip it straight to get Pessina. You know, something like that. That's the situation where I can see him coming in. Because Krunic is like 27. He's in his prime. He's probably not going to be happy given his ambitions with the Bosnia squad ahead of next year's Euros to be not getting a single minute of game time. He's not going to be thrilled with that.
Mm-hmm.
So if he wanted to explore opportunities at another club, then maybe Pessina is the guy that we could bring in to replace him, let's say. Final question, funnily enough, comes from Krunic. No, I thought it said Krunicismo, but it's Canceratops. What do we need more in the upcoming summer window? I think what we'll do after the last game of the season, or maybe the one after that, we'll try and get a guest on, actually, that I've got in mind. We'll do a sort of summer transfer window special where we go through it position by position and look at it. But for now, we'll ask this. What do we need in the summer window? Increased depth across the board. So, 4, 5, 6 players, or a couple of marquee big name signings.
I'm always going to go with marquee big signings.
Same. I think that
It's fun.
you don't want to disturb the starting lineup too much, but then you're going to need a central defender. Ibra's not playing all 35 or 36 games next season, however many
38.
we play in 38. I don't know how many games we play. And then we're going to need a striker. So 3 marquee
I'd be the same. I'd always opt for Marquee just because I think I look at them lot, the other half of the city, and the window where they managed to bring in Lukaku,
Sanchez,
and Alexis
Godin.
Sanchez. Yeah, they bring in big names, and it helps. That study came out today about brand values, and Inter is currently nearly double ours. And I assume in a year's time it'll be different because obviously we've got Ibra back, and that's massively boosted our following, our global recognition, whatever you want to say. But it is important to be known for something. It depends what you consider marquee. If we were to beat Inter to Tonali, let's say, it became a head-to-head race and he picked us over them, that's a statement. That's a marquee signing in that it's a big statement because he believes in our project, that kind of thing. But then if it's like, oh, go and get Cavani or go and get a big name centre-back to stick next to Romagnoli, 60 mil for Upamecano or whatever it might be, I'd go with that because I think we just need a bit of fine-tuning at the moment. But then at the same time, I look at what's going to happen in terms of our squad depth, and I start thinking to myself, no, we can't get away with that. We do need to bring in cover in some positions. But then Pioli said, what did he say? Or was it a report? I think it was a report that said that we're sort of 3 or 4 players away, basically. That's what we're going to go for, is 3 or 4 or 5 players to complete the squad rather than overhaul it like we might have had to do under Ranić. It's going to be an interesting summer. We'll definitely do a transfer special or something. In fact, all the episodes over the summer will probably end up being transfer specials, but we'll do a squad assessment one. That'd be fun. I think
all 3 of the summer episodes.
Yeah.
Games started.
Oh, shit, yeah. That's bad. Final one that I want to talk about. Guess what I wrote a report about this morning from Il Giornale?
Oh, I saw.
Mbappe,
that's our right winger problem solved.
That's our everything sorted. Honestly, I think if you were to do like a straight swap, like this isn't going to happen, but a straight swap of Zlatan for Mbappe, it would be harder for us. Like our form wouldn't continue because the difference in Mbappe and Zlatan. Obviously, Mbappe is the best young striker on earth right now. There's no denying that, but I don't think that system will mesh immediately. Just going back to that original point from, I don't know, minute 5 of the podcast, but yeah, continue.
That's not going to happen.
Like game systems, it's like I look at our current game system now and you ask me, would I want Messi up front on his own or would I want someone, well, like CR7, I'd say not that, but like a Dzeko or something. At the moment, I'd probably genuinely say Dzeko because we're built so much around having size up front.
Well, I would put Messi on the right wing. I wouldn't have him up front.
Yeah, all right, fair. That's fair.
But I get what you're saying, yes.
I got an idea for the centre forward to replace Ibra. If we're going to really go out and spend 50 million, like it says, on the guy who's going to replace Ibra, Erling Haaland.
Oh.
Not going to happen.
Why not? Dortmund are a
Why is he going to leave Dortmund?
Because they're
after
club.
6 months.
He's got a release clause. No, I'm saying at the end of next year.
Yeah, so he's still not going to... Why would he come to AC Milan?
Let's say we get into the Champions League.
Let's say we get Robert Lewandowski. Just a straight replacement for Zlatan. He's a little bit younger. Keep him around for 3-4 years.
Real Madrid are going to get rid of Benzema eventually.
Are they?
Okay, I'd rather stretch and take Haaland than any of these old guys. Come on.
All of them are literally a decade younger than our fucking star striker right now.
That's true. Yeah. So just to end on something kind of silly. Again, people replied to the tweet of this saying, stop reporting this. When a major newspaper in Italy comes out with something saying Milan are going to get sold, we've got to fucking report it. What do people think we are, North Korea? Like, we're going to report something that says, this guy's buying Milan and he wants to bring Pep Guardiola.
The world's richest man wants to buy the club and bring the best manager and best player.
I can confirm that working for SempreMilan is probably close to living in North Korea.
You say working.
I can confirm it's the easiest job I've ever had.
Mhm.
1 hour a week.
No, it's interesting because they cited sources inside the business circle. Now, Christ knows what that means.
Right.
However,
either
if you have more than $1
nothing.
billion, you're inside of a private circle.
Freemasons is essentially what it is. Let's face it. But
Illuminati.
I have heard from a source that it is being discussed at the moment in financial circles, i.e., big Zoom calls with over 200 people from various high places of society. Been talked about Louis Vuitton's acquisitions that are coming up, and who knows what that means. The Louis Vuitton group, that could mean something, but we'll see. We'll see. That's it. Anything else to add, boys?
Wrap her up. Let's do it.
Did you say your source or a source?
A source close to me.
Dude, you know some rich people, man. Let's get some investors in this podcast.
It's Isaac Muller.
Isaac.
Oh God.
No, I know who the source is.
Yeah, I did mention it in the chat.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, thank you very much.
If you paid attention, you would know too.
Yeah, Maddie does.
Sorry, I have a job. I work all day.
So do we.
Same. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. You can catch me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher or at Kilpin Chronicles for more explicit Milan-based rants. I've been joined by Anthony Torgrew.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Great episode. Follow me at Torgrew45. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you guys subscribe to us on YouTube because a lot of you guys watch us, but you don't subscribe to us. So.
Oh yeah, subscribers do make a big difference. Please do that.
Yeah, and follow me on Twitter at Madison_DT.
Let's try and get 75 likes on this video. That'd be cool.
If you get 75 likes, Anthony will buy you all an AC Milan jersey.
No promises.
Yeah, that's it, lads. Cheers. Catch you in a week's time.
Tira Alessio, Suso, tira. Perché non tiriamo? Ma perché non tiriamo? Gol! Alessio Romagnoli, gol! Alessio Romagnoli!